William, just share a little bit about like, what were some of the challenges for you in BraveCo? How did you come in? Did you come in like good to go? I know some guys came into BraveCo, their life wasn't necessarily a mess or anything like that. How did you come in?
I came in by accident. I was on Facebook and saw the 5 day challenge and was just like, heck, why not give it a shot? Like I've followed Bethel. I've seen your stuff. I've seen your dad's stuff. And I was like, hey, maybe I'll get something out of this week, not realizing that 5 days in, I'd be sitting there like crying and like realizing like, wow, there's a lot of stuff that I've packed into myself that I don't want to share with people. And like going into it, I thought I was okay. Being completely honest,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, like this seems like it'd be a great journey, great opportunity. Um, but coming into it and beginning going through like the masculinity phase, and then I think for me it was more like the sexuality and relationship phase that like smacked me really hard. Because I
Wow.
began to realize like listening to these guys every week, like open up and be vulnerable, like that was not really a place there I was. But at times I would hold back quite a bit because I was like, I'm so
Yeah.
afraid of sharing. A lot of it just being from past relationships with other men that just went
Yeah.
sour, and like being vulnerable with them, and like my family, my brothers, my dad, like not being the most emotionally available. So coming into it, like one of the biggest struggles was that vulnerability aspect. And I think a lot for me was the insecurity of just
Mm.
like, if I'm open with these guys, like what's going to happen? Like, what are people going to think of me? And it's like even opening up with my wife was terrifying as well. Cause I was like, oh gosh, like there's sides of me that she's never known and she's never heard
Wow.
of. And like going through these phases and deep diving into pain from past relationships and sexual experiences, I was just like, what's going to happen here? Like, I'm going to get on this call and just like tell these guys, like, oh, yeah, like I have all of this past sexual hurt from being a homosexual man and being used and abused and like porn or like
Yeah.
pulled into pornography. Like, most guys nowadays don't want to talk about that type of stuff, like
That's
at
true.
all. But to come into this and have these guys just be like, hey, like cool. And then I know for me personally, like MJ was a big support in that. And like being able to talk about that with him and like walk through similar experiences, like really pulled me out of that. And like
Yeah.
to go now forward, like walking in confidence and like walking in an ability to have relationship with men that I was like so shut off from, is it's a huge win. Like I look at it now and I look around the relationships that I've built where I'm at, the relationships I've built with these guys, the relationships that I've like helped restore and like God's helped restore with my own brothers and my father, like has been incredible. And yeah, I'm like, it was just a wild experience.
Wow. That's crazy. Unpack for me just a little bit. Like, how did your wife, like, how did she navigate through this? And was it pretty easy for her or yeah, what was her kind of mode through this?
So I think at times it was difficult. Other times it was fine. She does counseling. So me kind of coming up with this stuff, she was like, oh, cool. Like, let me see how I can kind of help you, but just be your wife. I think a lot of the
Yeah.
difficulty came when a lot of like the sexual pain and the sexual history started coming up. And for that, she got really nervous about it and very like
Mm.
uncertain,
Yeah.
especially like coming from a gay lifestyle. For her, she was like,
Yeah.
that's a complete unknown territory for me, um,
Yeah.
and walking through that. So there was a lot of tough conversations on the couch at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and like breakfast conversations, bedroom talks, just like walking through everything that I'm processing, but also
Yeah.
having her support in the sense of like, hey, you need other men, like you need to open up to the BraveCo guys about this. Like I am your wife,
Wow.
I'm here to support you, but like men need to walk you through this journey too. So yeah.
Man, I love that. When Lauren and I got married, of course, I had 3 kids from my previous marriage and had gone through divorce and stuff. And one of the things that she said to me kind of stuck in reflection. She said, I can't remember how many years after we'd been married, we had this conversation. She said, I felt confident in marrying you, knowing that I wasn't going to be the one that was going to have to bear the burden. If you weren't doing well, you had other men in your life, right? Like, so I have my dad and Danny Silk and like these other guys that I built relationship with. And she was like, I always felt comfortable, not that we weren't going to get over our head, but that we were never going to get into a spot where our community couldn't help solve that. And I think that's one of the things that my dad modeled really good for me growing up was I always saw him, reaching out to these other guys. Right. And so growing up, it was just kind of second nature for me to have somebody that I can, pull into my foxhole. And of course we have our wives, and they're an incredible strength, right? Like sometimes my wife has like the insight of God on my life, like what I need. And sometimes she just has better instincts than I have about what the kids need or what's going on or how to solve a problem. But a lot of times, just knowing that she's going through crazy stuff or I'm going through crazy stuff and there's somebody else there that's shouldering that load is so massive. So I could see how, man, you go live a homosexual lifestyle, which I didn't previously know that. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm just showing people how authentic this conversation is. Like I didn't pre-set up and go, tell me all your stories. But having that, right, that's a scary thing in a marriage, right? It's a scary thing for it's unsettling, especially when you start going through your sexual past. Like a lot of couples are really afraid of that kind of stuff because, man, is it going to bring up the past? Is it going to, well, we're already in the past, right? Because if you went through that stuff and you didn't clean it up, it's not like you buried it and it's dead. It's like on some way, shape or form, it's still affecting your life. How are you going to get the confidence to really unpack that, not doing it alone? So, man, that's massive. Yeah, that's massive. And where do you feel like you're at? So you did a year of BraveCo. Where do you feel like you're at now? Like, give me like the 411 on kind of your marriage and your life.
Marriage and life, definitely a lot stronger marriage wise. Being able to be vulnerable and open with her has like helped our relationship go forward. But we were in the process of finishing up phase 4 and going through legacy and leadership. And my wife ended up by telling us that we were pregnant. So going into fatherhood, our baby's due in April. So that's kind of the exciting part of going through this entire year and like being in that previous lifestyle, never thinking I would be a father, never thinking I would be any type of example of a man to somebody, to now like looking at the future of what's ahead, to like be able to be a father to my daughter and to like show her what that looks like, what a godly man looks like, is so exciting. And then just being able to see like everything else that God's opened us up to, like marriage wise, and just like having those conversations and being able to just deep dive into things and not holding back, where I think prior was like a lot of holdback.
If I was smart, I would have interviewed each one of you before I did this and then like coached you on what to say so that guys would be like real inspired. It doesn't get any better than that, right? Of like, man, I look over and Tim's almost crying on the couch. He put his head down, rubbing his eyes. I mean, that's why we do this, right? That's worth the fight. So, each one of you guys gave a year of your life and $1,000 to, to work through stuff in your life, get some tools and come out on the other side. And the other side of that is, man, I'm having a child. Like, I can't, bro, congratulations. I can't even believe that.
Thank you. It's crazy.
What's interesting is guys struggle for years with their past. They struggle for years with, especially like same-sex attraction, homosexuality type of stuff. And, my story is no secret with oral sex with guys and stuff. And it's just so cool to watch what can happen when you build healthy relationships and you really go after the stuff in your life. Like, it unlocks you and gives you the capacity to do stuff that you never thought you'd do. So, William, congratulations, man, on not just your daughter, but like really pressing in and going through hard stuff to get to this just phenomenal place. So